What's up, Joe?
Hey, Nate. Kyle, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello.
How's it going, everybody?
Yo. Nice.
Hey guys, if you're not Kyle, Andy, or Nate, we're gonna ask you guys to mute yourselves so that there's no background noise as we run through this.
Wait, so you want me to mute myself?
Yes, please, until the at least until the question and answer portion of the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. We'll get started right after 4 o'clock. Give everybody a chance to jump in. Okay. So for anybody who just jumped on, if you guys can mute yourselves outside of Kyle, Andy, and Nate, that would be really helpful, just so there's no background noise as we go through here. But without further ado, we will get started here. So just wanted to take a quick moment to open up here and thank you guys all for taking the time to jump on today and join us on this webinar. More importantly than anything that we'll talk about in our discussions today, we hope that you guys are all healthy and your families are healthy. And also staying active during these times of uncertainty. My name is Joe Moore. I'm the managing director of Centercourt Boys Lacrosse and head coach at Princeton Day School. Our hope is that with these webinars, we can serve some sort of short distraction for you guys as we all work through this tough time together. On top of that, we're also excited to be able to engage with you guys, our select team families, and get to know you guys better, and then also allow you all a chance to get to know us as your directors a little bit better as well. So typically when we do these webinars, until we're able to get back on the field together, we're going to try to do them after 4 p.m., especially if it's Monday through Friday, just so that the boys can finish up their remote learning through their school before we jump on here. So as you guys might have seen yesterday, we shot out a big email encouraging everybody to follow us on Instagram right now. That's where we're going to be the most active. We've actually already put up a couple posts in the last 48 hours. Our tag there is Centercourt_BLAX. Boys Lax, BLAX, Centercourt_BLAX. We'll be posting pretty much daily there with at-home workouts, unique wall ball routines, We'll be reposting you guys, our select team players, staying active, using some of the content that we're going to be providing for you guys today. So, I definitely encourage you guys, if you're on Instagram, to jump on to that page, give us a follow, and track us there. We'll be posting videos, pictures, and also adding to our stories as well. So with that said, I want to kind of move along and kind of dive into the agenda. Hopefully everybody received the agenda that we sent out earlier in the day today. We'll stick to that pretty closely. I would suggest having a pen and pad in front of you, because we're going to throw a ton of information at you and move relatively quickly. And then we'll open up for Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions, I encourage you guys to hold them until the end. And then we'll open up, and myself and the other directors will do our best to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So with that said, I'll start off here. I want to talk to our middies specifically, just about at-home training, the options that they can use to stay active and continue their development, which is something that we always want to protect with our select team focus. But what I'm going to talk about specifically applies to all middies. So that's offensive middies, defensive middies, long stick middies, two-way middies, Fogos even. This is going to apply to all of you guys. One big thing that I'm going to focus on, or two big things I'm going to focus on. One is transition. So pushing transition between the lines. And when I say between the lines, I mean between one restraining line on the field and the opposite restraining line. So that's kind of where we see the most action, whether it's ground ball scrums, we see face-offs there, and we also see that transition game. We see whether it's offensive middies pushing transition, getting the ball down the field as fast as possible, or if it's defensively getting back into the hole and helping our defense prepare for a defensive possession. So I'm going to talk a lot about that. And then also from a technical standpoint, working with wall ball, making sure our top half of our body, waist up, is working totally separate from the bottom half of our body. That's really important for our midfielders, especially when it comes to that transition game and being able to make a pass on the run and make sure it's super accurate. So that's an important piece. And then actually a third piece also is just general athleticism. So foot quickness and straight line speed. I'll wrap up with that as well. So, but first things first, wall ball routines and kind of technique for our middies. So one thing that Nate's going to focus on after me is an attack specific routine. So I want the middies to actually use that same attack routine, but we're going to add mobility. So we're going to start moving our feet. So what I typically like to tell players that I coach, and even for myself when I was playing the game as a middie, I always like to take 3 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. Doesn't have to be fast. You don't have to run, but just walking 3 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. You can do this simply with your strong hand, just throwing the ball back and forth, or with your weak hand, or alternating, whatever, it doesn't matter. But most importantly, we want those feet active. So what you're going to find when you're doing that is that, like I said, your bottom half of your body is working while your top half of your body is working totally separately. So as we've all heard from our high school coaches, our rec team coaches, we always hear opposite foot forward when we're throwing. So by that, they mean for throwing with our right hand, our left foot's forward. We're throwing our left hand, our right foot's forward. I want to strip that out totally while you guys are doing this, and force you guys to find yourselves in positions where if you're throwing with your right hand, your right foot might be forward, just depending on the timing of when you're catching and releasing the ball. So going through Nate's routine, 3 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. And I think one of the challenges you guys will find from a catching standpoint is when you're walking towards the wall, catching the ball as it's coming to you. So it's going to seem like the ball is coming twice as fast than it normally is when you're going towards it, for obvious reasons there. And that's a really hard catch to make. So something that you guys should focus on there. One thing that's outside of Nate's wall ball routine is walking along the wall and throwing the ball across your body. So what I mean by that is having your shoulders perpendicular to the wall and walking in a straight line while playing catch with yourself off the wall. And when you get to the end of the wall, you want to try to switch hands, come back doing the same exact thing. Again, focusing on the bottom half of your body, working totally separate from the top half of your body, throwing the ball across your body. You're going to find that this is really difficult for your weak hand. Don't get discouraged. If you're finding that it's really difficult and you need to find a way to make it easier on yourself, just throw the ball softer. You can even just drop the stick and play catch across your body with your hand. And then once you get really good at that, then you can pick the stick up again and make it a little bit more realistic. For all of this wall ball stuff, if you're finding that everything that I just talked about is way too easy and you're like, I need a challenge, one thing you can do is count out loud, or have a regular conversation with a buddy or a parent or sibling, whatever it is. Whatever you want to do, I want to keep your brain off of just passing and catching. So obviously when we're in practice or in games, there's a lot more going on than just focusing on passing the ball, making sure it's accurate, or catching the ball and making sure it's a crisp catch. So taking your brain off of that, just pass and catch, counting out loud. Counting in your head isn't going to do anything for you. It's got to be out loud. Doesn't have to be loud, but counting out loud and sticking to your rhythm. If counting by ones is too easy for you, challenge yourselves and count by fives or tens. Point being here, we got to activate our mind, keep it off of the basics here of passing and catching. So those are some wall ball specific things for our middies that you guys can do. Again, make sure you're paying close attention to Nate's routine after he goes here. And if you have any questions or trouble doing it, definitely let me know. Again, these are things that I've done all throughout my career that have really helped me keep my stick engaged. Moving on to speed and quickness. The first thing I'm going to do here is point you guys to YouTube. And jump on there and you're just going to type in the 5-dot drill. This is a really basic drill. You can do it in your bedroom. You can do it in your living room. You can do it outside on the grass or pavement. All you need is 5 small objects with flat surfaces. I'm going to let the YouTube do the work on that one, but it's really self-explanatory. The main focus there is 100% foot speed. Why is foot speed important for our middies? Because you guys are inevitably going to find yourselves in a ton of one-on-one situations, whether it's offensively attacking the goal or defensively helping your defense and your goalie, keeping that guy as far away from the goal as possible. It's going to happen. And foot speed is one way to gain an advantage on your opponent on both sides of the ball. It doesn't matter. So do that 5-dot drill daily. That's a really good one. It's going to burn. I'll warn you right now, but it's going to be really good for your developing your foot speed. And then after that, as I alluded to earlier, straight line speed. This is huge. This is probably the most important thing I'll talk about with our middies. And that's when we're focusing 100% on our transition game here. So many times in the game, at all levels of the game, you're going to find yourself in a straight up foot race with your opponent and just trying to beat him from one end of the field to the other end of the field. So one way to practice that, as much as we all hate it, is just sprints. So what I like to do is set up either a cone or a line just 50 yards out if you have it. If you don't have it, you can do 20 yards, 10 yards, whatever it is. But just getting to your maximum speed as fast as you possibly can and maintaining that speed through the end line. That's going to be really good for you guys. And it's important that you guys log your times every single time. I would suggest doing it off the bat 3 times in a row. Get 3 really good reps in. Make sure you clock all 3 and treat that average time from those three sprints as your kind of baseline. And then every day or every week, you want to try to lessen that time to as low as possible. A good way to challenge yourself on that is to put a stick in your hand and keep both hands on the stick as you're running through that line. And don't pull up before you reach the end line. Another way to challenge yourself from there and also make things a little bit more realistic, at least from an offensive perspective, is by putting your stick in your hand and also putting a ball in your stick. And at the end of that end line or the end of your sprint, making a pass. So if you have a buddy or if you have a sibling that plays lacrosse, you can make a quick pass to them. Preferably, you want to throw across your body, kind of replicating that that pass to that point attackman in your transition game or fast break. But just making sure that either way, finding some target, whether it's a person or if you're just throwing it at a goal, whatever, making sure you're keeping it realistic and ending your sprint with a pass. No matter how you do these straight line sprints, make sure you're clocking yourself on everything, making sure that you're pushing yourself to be as fast as you possible and reach that maximum speed as quickly as possible and maintain it through the end line. So those are some really good things for our midfielders. Again, all this stuff applies to middies of all different sorts. So even our Fogos, this applies to you guys too, because chances are at some point you're going to find yourself either playing offense or defense with your set groups. So if you have any questions on that stuff specifically, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always anxious to talk lacrosse, but even more anxious to talk about midi specific workouts and anything that applies to the midfield position. So again, as I mentioned with our wall ball routine, a lot of what I talked about, a lot of what you're going to work on there is going to be pulled from Nate's routine that he's going to talk about. So make sure that you pay really close attention to what he's going to talk about and go through here. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Nate to talk about attack-specific at-home workout options.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Joe. I'm Nate Small. I'm the director of lacrosse for Centercourt Marlboro, although a lot of you guys have seen me work out at Lawrence, and even up north, I've worked with a lot of the kids up north as well. So I'm just going to go through a wall ball routine that I've always done with my players, whether it's through small group training or private lessons. The philosophy behind this is to have a metric to sort of measure yourself by. So quickly, the routine is going to be quick sticks on a wall. If you can get a wall, if you have a rebounder, that's fine too. So you're going to have a timer, whether it's your phone, egg timer, whatever you need. All right, you're going to do 1 minute segments for each of these wall ball sessions. So first thing first, all right, warm yourself up for a couple minutes. Once you're ready to go, you're going to set a minute on your timer. You're going to go all strong hand. All right, on the wall, quick sticks. So about, we'll say 5 feet from the wall, nice and tight. All right, up on the wall, hitting the wall with your strong hand. All right. And then as you're getting comfortable and you're getting a rhythm down, you'll be able to pick up that speed. All right. After the minute's up, all right, record your score. All right. Have a journal, Excel sheet, notes on your phone, whatever you want to do. Because you want to, as you continue to go through these drills, you want to have something to compare yourself by to see progress being made, which is why I like doing this drill time. So again, after you do righty, you're going to switch, you're going to go lefty. All right. After that, that's pretty simple. So the next set through is going to be what we'll call splits. All right. So it's just like split dodge. So you're going to take your stick, throw off the wall. You're going to catch. Once you catch it, you're going to split, throw off the wall, catch, split, throw off the wall for a minute. You're going to count every rep. Again, the only ones that count are, of course, the ones you catch. All right. So if you drop a ball, you're not going to count that rep. So it's important. If you've got 3 or 4 balls, have a couple at your feet. So if you miss one off the wall, just pick one up again and keep going. All right. After you're done with that, you're going to do what I like to call switches. So instead of catching and splitting, you're actually going to throw the ball. As it's hitting the wall, you're actually going to switch hands and catch with the opposite hand. Throw back off the wall, switch hands, catch with the opposite hand. All right. The 2 things to focus on for both of these is your footwork. All right. So you can see me, I'm in my swivel chair here to show you, right? If I'm using my feet, I'm always switching my body position like Coach Joe said. All right, you want to have that opposite foot forward. All right, makes it easier to catch. When you split, you're catching, opposite foot's forward. All right, so the final one we're going to do for this routine, again, quick sticks, is a roll. So this one's a little bit more complicated. Again, you're going to start, you're going to throw, hit the wall, you're going to catch. Actually, I'm going to roll all the way around my chair. All right, you're doing a roll dodge. All right, throwing, catching, rolling all the way back. throw, and catch. And again, do it for a minute, record your score, all right, and then keep that journal. And then the next part of this routine is you're going to go through the same routine, but you're going to back up to about 10, 12 yards, all right, nice and far off the wall, all right? And what you want to focus on here is catching. Instead of a quick stick, one quick cradle and out of your stick. One quick cradle and out of your stick. And for this, you want to pick a spot on the wall to aim for every time. That way you can test your accuracy and, again, record your scores, go through the whole progression. The other thing you want to do for this that's important as well, all right, again, catching one cradle and out, all right, and then your footwork. So you don't want to be planted hard on your feet, because if the ball takes an awkward bounce off the wall, you want to be light on your toes so you can make a move and go get that ball and catch it, all right? So the next thing that's really important that I also encourage my kids to do is, aside from just going out there and doing sort of a regimented hard drill, is to go out there and have fun and get to know your stick a little bit better. So in the email that Joe sent out, there's a couple links to a few videos of Matt Gibson. He's somebody, he's a pro player, he's been around for a while, but he's very known for his stick tricks, whether it's playing wall ball or doing, crazy flip tricks, wall stalls with his stick. So go ahead and check those videos out. And after you're done with your routine, go out there and experiment, have fun, do crazy things, try and invent new tricks with your stick. Because having that hand-eye coordination with the stick will make you a much, much better lacrosse player. Joe, that's all I got. If you want to introduce the next part of the.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Thanks, Nate.
next up, I think, is Kyle with defensive specific at-home training options. Kyle, you there?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, ready to go. Thanks, Joe. So first and foremost, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Kyle Newman. I'm the boys lacrosse director out at Centercourt in Lawrence. This will be my first season starting up with everybody, so I'm very excited to kind of hit the ground running. My segment today is all on defense, defensive players. I'll be covering close defensemen, LSMs, and short stick Ds. So that being said, being the first webinar and the first time we're running through all this, biggest thing that I wanted to put forward, something that I am huge with, especially with, I was starting my first season out at Princeton Day School as the defensive coordinator, and something I always instill in my player is the attitude and the mentality that comes with being a defensive player every time you take the field. So being a defensive player always means that we are the most detail-oriented and prideful player on the field. Doesn't matter what kind of defenseman you are. You just have to be able to lock in and simply refuse to lose. Just making sure that you guys have the mentality of, I'm not letting this guy beat me to the rack. I'm not letting him beat me to where he wants to go. I want to make sure that I'm doing my job as a defenseman. There's a reason that people say defense wins championships, and it can't be more true. I think it's just something that goes hand in hand with the game. That being said, the most crucial aspects in my opinion about being a good defenseman is great footwork. You have to be able to move laterally just super well, super quick, and just knowing how to kind of manipulate your footwork to kind of gear your player to do what you want them to do, instead of the opposite way around, where they're kind of gearing you and moving you. Next is positional awareness. The position on the field is everything. Where you are, how you react to certain positions on the field, kind of where you're looking, once again, to put that player where you want them to be instead of the other way around. And there's different ways that you can do that on different points of the field, and we'll go through all of that as we continue through our webinars and everything like that with our at-home defense clinics. And last is, no matter where you are on the field, whether it's attack, midi, defense, you always have to be able to handle the rock. You always have to be able to handle the ball and execute clears, passing, and even shooting if you get down to your offensive end. So first part of my segment that I'm going to kind of dive into here is spinning off of Coach Nate's wall ball routine. Pretty much doing what they were talking about, just practicing with your right hand, left hand. I want to reiterate just kind of that whole routine. I think is fantastic, and thanks again, Nate, for bringing it up and sharing that with everybody. Things that I do want to add to kind of hone in a little bit more of the defensive side and hone in a little bit more of what you guys should be focusing on for, like, especially with long sticks and everything like that, is under like the unorthodox kind of movement that Nate was talking towards the end of it, where you're kind of just having fun and kind of moving around with your stick and just kind of doing funky things. And a lot of times in a lot of different scenarios, you're going to find yourself where you're going to have to like bring it across your body here and flip it up to a player. I wish I could show you a little bit better, but if you have it in here and like a guy's coming towards you and you can't get a pass off this way, or, you know, you're scrambling to pick up a ground ball, you turn and you goose it across, or anything of that sort, you kind of want to develop that unorthodox kind of movement. So that being said, just adding that to your wall ball routine. If you're a pull, catching deep here, go through all of that. Go through your regular kind of wall ball routine, and then adding that in, that cross hip flip where you're coming up here, do it left hand cross hip flip, hit the wall, catch, same thing, and keep doing that. It's going to be a little weird. Like I said, it's all unorthodox movement, so don't get discouraged if you can't get it all right away, but it's something that's going to be a huge tool for you, especially when there's ground ball scrums and you're trying to get it to another player where, you know, you don't have the time to pick up the ground ball and get it up here to make an accurate throw. Definitely beneficial to be able to pick the ground ball up and kind of just dunk it off to your player there. Another thing that I'll reiterate towards the wall ball routine is making sure you're changing distances, right? So with a long stick or anything on the defensive end, we typically tend to make longer passes, especially in the clearing game. So definitely making sure that we are giving ourselves the opportunity to kind of expose ourselves to that distance. For example, if you're doing your wall ball routine and you finish your right hand, left hand, then change your plane and kind of go a couple steps back, 10, 15 steps back, and try to really hone in that long passing. And then again, kind of just going ahead and moving up close to kind of get that unorthodox, those light touches and everything, and kind of doing the quick sticks and developing that kind of that focus in the game as well. Let's see. Next segment. The last thing I wanted to reiterate is catching the ball like an egg. Hear it throughout so many different coaches and everything like that. All the coaches will tell you that the best way to handle the ball is when it's coming at you, is meeting it with a target, then bringing it and giving with the ball as it comes to you, and you'll be able to catch it on your shoulder. You shouldn't be cradling it all through this entire process or the wall ball routine. Just making sure that we're catching it deep, firing off, catching it deep, firing off, and making sure that we're getting those quick reflex muscles down and developing that. My next segment, real quick here, is going through kind of what I talked about in the beginning in terms of your footwork and positional awareness. As Joe mentioned on YouTube can be your best friend throughout this entire experience. I know this is all new to us and we're trying to find things to do around the house, but getting on YouTube, just developing kind of the drills and getting that mindset in your head. One big thing that I like to do is called the zigzag drill. You'll probably find so many different versions of this on YouTube, and I encourage you to try them all and figure out what works best for you. But essentially, the zigzag drill is kind of just to get yourself moving, getting those lateral muscles down, developing that side-to-side movement that's so key and important to being a defensive player. It'll develop the speed and quickness, and it just helps you develop as a defensive player. For the defensive positional awareness, big things on YouTube are called the film room matchup for lacrosse. Just type in film room matchup lacrosse. And these clips have helped me develop my game throughout my entire career, high school, middle school, college, just giving myself a better sense of how I should be reacting where on the field, the type of panic level, so to speak, that I have in terms of where I'm at on the field, where to engage with players, and just how to react to my position and how to better set myself up for success by either taking the ball away or deterring them from going to the cage. the series highlights matchups from lacrosse legends, like people that you hear, like Tucker Durkin. Like, the whole lacrosse world knows all about Tucker Durkin. He's always on there, and they're always pinning him up against some of the lacrosse legends in his heyday. So definitely super helpful for all of that. So lastly, I'm just going to throw out there to keep developing your endurance and staying in shape while practicing all of these drills. Make sure that you're trying to go as back-to-back as possible. That zigzag drill is going to be draining for you for sure. But the more that you kind of learn to hunker down and hit that hard work button, even though you're exhausted, is definitely something that's key on the field. Sometimes on the defensive end, we'll go for 3 or 4 minutes on a defensive angle and a defensive play, and that might not seem like too much, but when you're really hunkering down and running all over the field and chasing guys and playing good defense, good strong defense, it definitely takes a lot out of you. So make sure you're helping out with your endurance, practicing these drills once again, back to back, zigzag. Just try to go until you can't go anymore, and continue to try to better your endurance. Joe, I think that's all I have, guys. Going off of what Joe was saying, hope you guys are staying safe, practicing your social distancing, everything like that, and definitely hoping to get to see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Andy, with
how we doing?
Goalie specific at home training.
Can you hear me okay, guys?
I can.
Yeah. Okay. How's my camera angle here? Can you guys see what I got set up over here? Got some books on the ground. This good?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So real quick, little intro for those who don't know me. Andy Bryant, Director of Boys Lacrosse for Centercourt Montclair, also assistant coach over at NJIT. I work with the goalies over there. Some of the drills I'm just going to go through real quick, and I want to, as you can see, I'm set up in a, kind of creepy basement, but just want to show guys to make the most out of what you got. And as you can see, I don't have cones or anything, but I got just some supplies here. I got some books, right? I got a couple pairs of socks on the ground here, found some tennis balls in the basement, and set up just a couple of drills that are going to help you with footwork. And, these are drills that I do with my goalies, but for any player that's struggling with foot speed, they can be really helpful with that sort of thing. And then obviously just some hand-eye drills, because it's always good to make sure you're working on your hand-eye drills. So these drills are for goalies, but all players can use them for sure. So getting right into it. All right, going to start off with just my little high stack of books right here. Just a quick little footwork drill that you can do. You want to make sure you're doing this for maybe a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. We're just going to go quick, one touch, right? One foot on top of the other here. Trying to go as fast as you can for as long as you can. Making sure you're not getting sloppy, jumping up too high. We want to just touch the top of the book, come right back down, stay nice and fast. All right. Other ways we can do this is we can hop over, go one touch, two touch, back down, one touch, two touch, back down, or just one touch over, right? Just using a stack of books here to really just kind of get to work and do all sorts of things. I can do jumps over these books, right? But ideally, all you want to be doing is just making sure that you're activating your feet, doing quick feet. Get creative with it. Do whatever you want. Easy one, though, is just quick touch right here, right? And then the other one is quick touch over, back and forth, working for about a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. So you can make sure you're getting a good workout in. Next drill, right? Talking about foot speed a little bit more. This is definitely more something for the goalies here. What we're doing is these books that I have set up with the socks on top, they're set up at a 45-degree angle. Right, when we talk about goaltending, we want to make sure that we're not taking a straight step or a sideways step. There's a time and a place for both those steps, but right now we're working on just a 45-degree angle step right here. So I'm going to start. We can move these back a little bit. Start athletic stance like this. I'm just going to take one vertical step here, get back to an athletic stance, grab the sock, go back, reset, right back to the same book, put it down, go back, reset. Notice how I'm coming to like a little hop at the end here. I'm set up in my stance. One step, grab the sock, one step back, reset, one step back, grab the sock, one step back, right? You want to just keep going with that. I have a pole back here sometimes. You can like strap on yourself that you're adding a little bit of resistance to it, and you can just kind of again, 1 minute, 2 minutes, as many reps as you can get. It's going to get things going. So those are my 2 footwork drills. I'm already out of breath. So there you go. Next drill, all right, we're going to go hand eye. All right, so how am I? Can you see what I got going on here?
So, yep, you're good. Yep.
So hand eye drill for all players. All right. I come down, walls aren't going to chip or do anything, but I am using a tennis ball. And that is something you can do. If you have a trouble finding a wall in your house, make sure that you're just using a tennis ball and something's not going to do a lot of damage. Maybe a pinky ball, whatever, something, but a lacrosse ball, you know, that can do a little bit of damage. So you want to be careful. All right. All we're doing with this drill, 1 ball in each hand. I'm going to throw 1 ball at the wall. I'm going to switch hands with the ball, and that's going to get to my right hand, and we're just going to keep going like this, right? Working on seeing the ball all the way into my hand. You drop it, keep going. You want to end up going as fast as you can here, really working on my hand-eye coordination, move them around. I can go off stick high. Just keep going, stay with. Eventually, you want to do this for about, you know, minute, 30 seconds, trying to get as fast as you can. Eventually, we'll get to switching hands and going with a right hand catch. All right, simple enough there. It can also be helpful if parents want to get involved, you can have a partner standing behind, some guy lined up right here. I'm just squared up at the wall here. Throw comes from behind me towards the wall. I got to react, make sure my feet are in sync, bringing a step with me. And the parents, that's a great way for you to get involved. These are drills that you can do that don't require having another lacrosse player with you. Just you know, parents, if you want to make sure your kid's getting some work in, it's definitely helpful if you're working with them as well. What else I got? The last one, something I taught myself to do in the last couple of weeks here during this quarantine, is just juggling. I'm definitely not a juggling expert by any means, but I think you're going to have some time. So it's definitely a good skill to learn right now with all the time that you're going to have. YouTube, definitely rely on YouTube for that. I haven't gotten 3 balls down, but I have been able to kind of figure out 2 balls in one hand. And this is something that it's just, I've been pretty bored. So once you're bored, you got to try and figure out things that you can do. Obviously, you can see I'm not a pro yet, but juggling is obviously a helpful tool for goalies to have, just working on hand-eye coordination. It's so important. Our eyes are what's, you know, the most important thing as goalies in lacrosse for that matter, right? You got to have good hands. You got to have good eyes. You got to be able to adjust to anything, and all those skills are going to help you. So that's all I got for now. Tune in next week. I'll have some new ones for you, and we'll make sure that we kind of keep building on all this sort of stuff. But going back, just a quick recap here, right? Using the stack of books as some sort of footwork drill, right? Hopping over the book, quick touches, parents. You might have some sort of stair or something from like a workout class or something that can be used as well. And then obviously the 45-degree step with the pick up the sock, put it back, be explosive, working on hand-eye, 2 balls. That's it. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. So that kind of concludes the instructional piece of the webinar, but I think probably more importantly, we want to open things up to you guys. Hopefully you have some questions that you wrote down or kept in the back of your mind that we can help answer right now. So if you have questions, please pop on and throw them out there. You might have to unmute yourself if you're not already muted.
Do we want to refer to? Oh,
I guess I can start with one question. One question that I might have as a viewer could be, if I'm a defenseman, does it make sense for me to do some of the stuff that that Nate was talking about with the attackman guys? And I think, you know, the answer to that is absolutely yes. And that's kind of putting my coach's hat on when I say that, because I can tell you as a coach, you know, the most valuable thing and the most valuable players to me are not the most talented ones, but the ones that are most versatile. And, you know, who knows if you're going to be in a position with your team where, you know, you guys are out of poles, you're out of long sticks, and somebody needs to step up and pick up a long stick off the sideline and go out there and play. And if you're in a position to be able to do that, that automatically makes you more valuable to your coach, and will ultimately get you on the field more than you probably are now. So, it's important when we do these things for you guys to pay attention, not only just to your positions instruction, but also the positions that you don't play as well, and try to become that really well-rounded player. So everything outside of probably what Andy was talking about with the goalies, I think can be applied to all players on the field. So that's a question that I think could have come up along the way. Anything else you guys have?
Come on, guys, don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a great time to ask questions.
There's also the chat bubble feature in case anybody's a little nervous to talk. You can type it in.
Well, yeah. While we're waiting for folks to hopefully ask a few questions, I just want to cover one thing that's really important that we sort of kind of touched on is watching lacrosse. I know that's one thing Joe brought up, and Kyle, you brought that up as well, is watching as much lacrosse as you can. That helped me not only when I was younger, looking up to guys like, the Powell brothers and stuff like that, but even when I was playing in college, I was still watching a lot of D1 college lacrosse and finding guys that I really liked and wanted to emulate sort of what they were doing, and combining skills from different guys to try and improve my game. And watching lacrosse is honestly one of the things that helped me the most, especially as I got older, learning from those guys who are the best in the world. You can even see, I'll flip my camera around here if I can.
We got a question in the chat. We got a question in the chat.
Awesome. You can see, like, even here right now, I've got up on my computer. I've got a Syracuse game up that, as a coach and a player, like, I'm still watching lacrosse and learning from the game. So that's something you guys can do, especially now during this time where you're spending a lot of time indoors. It's just watching and learning. All right, Andy, let's go ahead and take care of this question here.
You want me to go with the speed question? What are some
I
skills for
can't see
speed?
the question on my phone.
I mean, I might be the fastest guy out of the group, so maybe I could take it.
I know I touched on it, just speed in general with the midfielders, and that's probably where you see the most straight line speed and or I guess runs on the field. For me, again, especially for our younger guys that are on the webinar that aren't lifting weights right now, I think it just comes down to reps and sprints and just gassers, as we call them in college. So it's not anything pretty, but just running repeatedly the same distance, probably more than 20 yards if you can, and just trying to lower that speed lower that time every single time. So making sure you get a full recovery before or between reps. And just working that time down as much as possible. And on top of that, I think your foot speed and quickness drills are going to also help increase your overall speed as well. So for older guys or high schoolers that might be involved right now, I think squats are a good thing for that, and lunges are probably a good thing for that. And just being able to open up your strides as wide as you possibly can to cover more ground in a lesser amount of time. But that would be my suggestions from a midi standpoint.
Yeah, I can build off that too as well, especially for the midfielders. When I played, I was actually an attackman who converted to midfield. One of the things I did in my off-season training was I did a lot of distance running, obviously to build up my endurance. But during those distance runs, I would put in little things like sprinting for a distance. So let's say I'm running down the road, I'll see, say, a mailbox, and then I'll see down the road there's a telephone pole or something. Maybe they're 30, 40, 50 yards apart. And I'd say, all right, during my jog, when I get to that mailbox, I'm going to all-out sprint all the way till I get to that telephone pole, and then I'm going back into my jog. Regular dead sprints are good, but in the game of lacrosse, like, you're running pretty much the whole time. So there's not a whole lot of times in the game where you start from a dead stop, go to a sprint, and then stand still for a while. So I think doing your distance training and then incorporating sprints into that is a great way to sort of build up that endurance as well as your sprinting speed. and then also cutting as well. So instead of just doing straight line sprints, add some cuts in there. So 45-degree cuts, 90-degree cuts, stopping and turning and sprinting the other way are great drills you can add into your distance running.
Yeah, Nate, I have to agree with you on that. I was going to add the same thing, so I definitely think you're spot on. One of the biggest things that I think is huge is changing your level of speed. So going off of what Nate said is just as you're going through your sprints, let's say you're doing a 100-yard dash, coming out and going at like 50% for 25 yards, then 75%, then the next 25, then 100, and then finish with 75 or however you want to do it. Another great thing for that is shuttle runs, a lot of change in direction, which is what lacrosse is all about. Making sure, so for those of you guys aren't familiar, essentially the shuttle run is you start at a 5 or start at a point, you go about 5 yards one way, and then you run back through this line and go about 5 yards the other way, so 10 yards in total, and then you finish back through the line. I think that's huge for developing some quick twitch muscles and developing your speed, and especially when you're stopping and starting and making some cuts.
What are some good shooting drills other than just standing and firing? Nate, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and cover this as well. This is something I'm going to cover more in a future webinar, but just to build off and answer your question, again, in lacrosse, right, everything is on the move for the most part. There's very few times, once or twice a game, you'll get that standing still time and room rip, which is great to be able to do, but most of the time in the game, you're moving and shooting, moving and passing. So the same sort of drills apply is get your stick, make your dodge. So just do right to left splits for 10 reps, left to right splits for 10 reps, and then shooting on the run. And then things you can do to improve that is you want to focus on making your dodge, exploding out of your dodge, and then getting that shot off as quick as you possibly can after coming out of your dodge. All right, your goal should be able to make that split, get your stick up and fire without having to take 3, 4, 5, 6 steps after your dodge. All right, because that slide is going to be coming if you beat your man. So you want to be able to get your shot off or your pass off as quickly as possible. And that goes for all your dodges, whether you're making your splits, your rolls, your hitches. All right, so work on that. Work on your downhill, so going straight down that alley, and then also work going across the field over the top so you can get those cross body shots as well.
One of my favorite go-to shooting drills for, when I'm working with goalies is called a figure 8 shooting. So what that drill looks like is, I'm going to try and give a little demo here, but imagine that the goal was behind me, right? The goal was directly behind me. I had a feeder standing up top here, and I'm just constantly moving, catching with my left hand, turning, shooting, running in this figure 8 motion, catching, shooting the whole time. You do need a feeder for that drill. So, that can definitely, if you're shooting by yourself, it can be difficult to, get high level reps without maybe taking time to go move to a new spot or whatever. But if you have a parent or somebody, even if they're just lightly tossing you the ball, that figure 8 shooting drill is a good way to get some cardio in while you're getting a lot of shots off in like a tight area. So that's a go-to on the figure 8 shooting drill. You can YouTube that drill for sure and see it demonstrated live.
That one's super fun. It's one of my favorite drills.
Mm-hmm.
When will lacrosse start up again? That's probably one of the best questions we could receive.
It's the one we're all trying to answer.
We don't know.
Unfortunately, we don't have an answer, but I think it's important that, because we don't have an answer and nobody does, it's important that all of us stay prepared. Us as coaches, all 4 of us are coaching at different programs right now. And there's a chance that at least us at the high school level do return to the field this spring. And there is no exact date on when that'll happen. But we're all keeping our fingers crossed. And as you guys as players, it's really important that you guys stay active, which, gets to the whole purpose of this webinar and what we'll be doing after today through our social media and also through these webinars. So we don't have an answer to that, but the best thing you can do is continue to develop on the field and develop your brain through watching lacrosse as much as possible.
Yeah, to build off of that, like Joe said, like we don't know, and nobody knows right now when things are going to get back to normal. Hopefully sooner than later. But you just got to treat this period of time as your off-season workout. And see, there's a couple familiar faces, guys I know here that will know that I always stress that the off-season portion is when you become that better player, is when you actually elevate your game. Because during in season, yeah, you do get a little bit better throughout the season. But the season is relatively short compared to the rest of the year. So putting in that work in the off-season time is what separates those really good players from just the good and the good from the average. So take this time as an opportunity. So whenever lacrosse starts up again, all right, this is just more time for you to get better and better before the lacrosse picks up again.
I always say, yeah, big thing in when I was going through college was in season is a great time to get better at the situational stuff because you have so many players around you and you're putting all these different situational drills. Off season is always the best time to get better at the fundamentals, and fundamentals always propels you through the situational. So keep at it, boys.
Will games be rescheduled? So I don't know. This is probably a good question, something we should address here. And I briefly touched on in our email, but in terms of, I'm not sure if you're talking about our select team games and tournaments. As of right now, as I mentioned in the email yesterday, our tournaments are all still scheduled to take place. Until that changes, we're going to kind of continue as is. And if it does change, we will be sure to let you guys know right away. So at this point, there's no need for rescheduling. If you're talking about spring season games that might have been missed already for your high school specifically or your rec team, unfortunately, we're not the ones to answer those questions. But hopefully this spring, we can squeeze in some competition one way or another with our rec programs and high school programs. Any other questions?
Just want to address the bottom comment. If you guys are reading the chat, definitely looking forward to progressing through this whole thing. We're kind of learning as we go as well. So, any feedback that you guys have for us is definitely welcome. But we appreciate that you giving us that feedback, and hopefully you guys like today's webinar.
Yeah. So in closing here, just want to announce a quick contest that we're going to launch starting immediately. So between today and next Friday, I believe the 27th, we are going to hold a contest specifically for our select team players to win one of our Centercourt Select snapback hats, which Kyle is wearing right now. So whoever sends and submits the most content of you guys staying active and doing some of these drills that we just talked about, or other drills that you find really helpful between today and next Friday, will win this hat. So take as many pictures, videos, whatever you guys want that just shows that you guys are staying active in your own unique ways. And send them to us either by email, or you can direct message them and in Instagram, and we'll collect them and keep tallies on who's submitting footage, and we'll announce a winner next Friday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So appreciate you guys all taking the time. Hopefully this served as a quick distraction for you guys over the last 50 minutes here, but we will continue to do these and stay engaged with you guys. Like Kyle said a moment ago, if you guys have unique ideas or things that you specifically want us to touch on, please let us know. Shoot us an email. Let us know what those topics are, and we will be sure to work them into the agendas as we continue to do these things. But for now, thank you guys for taking the time. And there you go, Andy. Nice comment for you. Jump on to our social media. Follow us on Instagram, and we will touch base with you guys on our next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.